Prince Harry wants that Freedom Flight video deleted from the internet, Lady Colin Campbell. He says we should never see it again. We should just pretend that he never made all of these ludicrous claims. You know what? Why don't we just play it once more then, Lady C, to really annoy him? Watch.
I am on the 14th of March, and we are on the Freedom Flight. We are leaving Canada, and we are headed to Los Angeles. Grandma's here. Hi, Grandma. Bruce here, with a ball in her mouth.
Actually, hi.
So busy with the current situation, thanks to another amazing friend who we've never met, but who believes in us.
Duchess Pinocchio writing, it turns out that dimwit Harry wants to have this video removed from the internet now that he pretends to be a royal again, according to Neil Sean. Nope, not going to happen. Let me post it here. And ladies, you know what's going on. Harry is attempting to rewrite history because he thinks now, as long as he says, I am a working royal, we'll just all go along with it. But it's not going to work, is it? Because it's not just the Freedom Flight video, it's everything he said, and Spare, and Harry and Meghan. This feels like a deluded mission. But what do you think it is, Lady C, about that Freedom Flight video in particular that upsets him so much?
Well, it was a bold statement of the fact that he had been imprisoned, that he had been born into a prison, that he had been brought up in a prison, and that under Meghan's ministrations and her enlightenment, he had managed to escape from the prison that he had nothing but contempt for, and the people still within the prison who he said were entrapped, such as his father and his brother. And now he wants to use the background and the setting of the prison to assert a lie, another lie, because that was a lie. And the lie he wants to now convince people is the truth, is that he is a working royal. Working royals is a term that means that the royal is working for the institution of the monarchy and the good of the country. They are not working for their enrichment. They are working for the enrichment of the state that they represent. Harry is, of that definition, not a working royal, because he is expecting a recompense into his personal bank account. So you can't, for instance, say that you are being unselfish, but you demand all of the rewards of unselfishness for yourself. That is selfishness. And so I think he hopes that by muddying the waters, he will be able to say, well, I'm a working royal and I'm doing what I was born to do, and I'm profiting off it. But that's okay, because I'm also at times doing good for other people. Well, I'm sorry, that's not what being a royal is about. If he wants to say that he is, and actually I think the term working royal, which is a recent invention, should be scrapped. I think it should be that they are working within the royal fold and functional, or outside of the royal fold, and that they are therefore benefiting themselves and themselves alone. But he's actually just lying, plain plumb lying, by saying he's a working royal. He's not a working royal because he's working for himself.
And Lady C, all that we have seen this week in terms of the in-depth reporting, which was put out in People magazine, quite disgracefully actually, designed by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's team to push King Charles's state visit from the cover, which it successfully managed to do. But I would just argue that harms People magazine. And I've been hearing from lots of outspoken viewers in the States, Lady C, who see they've gone into their supermarkets this week and there are so many copies of People magazine. They say anecdotally far fewer people are buying People this week because it's got Harry and Meghan on the cover. But what we saw from that article, Lady C, was again total delusion from Harry and Meghan, but an acknowledgement from within Buckingham Palace that William is not going to even countenance any type of return for these two. So why is Harry putting himself on a collision course?
Well, I think they are asserting their position, wouldn't you have said? And
oh, yeah.
are already on a collision course with William and indeed with Charles and indeed with the Lord Chamberlain's regulations, that they are on a collision course. They've been on a collision course, Dan, even before you revealed that Brexit was happening.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge problem all along. They're still on a collision course. And Harry thinks that if he makes certain assertions, that people will say, well, he has a valid point of view. I mean, the sympathy that they had initially has to a large extent been dissipated by their own gross actions. So I think, when he makes these stupid assertions, such as he's made, I'm a working royal, I'm a member of the royal family. Well, he is a member of the royal family, but he's not a working royal, but he is a member of the royal family. And even if he's stripped of his titles, he will still remain a member of the royal family, in much the same way that you are and will always be a member of the Wooten family, or I'm a member of my birth family. You're just a member of the family you were born into.
Yeah, but that wasn't what he was saying in the interview, was it?
No, he's trying to muddy the waters, and he's trying to establish terra firma, but it's on mud, and terra firma and mud are not. They're actually polar opposites. So,
now, Lady C, even during the course of this state visit, the Daily Mail has continued what I believe is a campaign against Prince William and Catherine. They decided to use the 15th anniversary wedding picture in order to do it. So this was a picture, I mean, I've got no idea what you think about it, Lady C, and maybe for you, this pushed the boundaries, I don't know. But as the Royal News Network posted, Catherine almost can't do right for doing wrong, because they said Catherine edits a family picture poorly, the media says don't do that, and so she stops. Then the family relies on a professional, and the pictures are too glossy and perfect. Pick a lane. The amount of complaining is a bit ridiculous. And this is what Claudia Connell wrote in the Mail. While at first glance the photo looks like a casual holiday snap, and I have no doubt the Waleses are a happy family unit, it's certainly not a spontaneous image that happened to capture an intimate moment. It was taken by Matt Porteous, a professional photographer and favourite with the Wales family, and looks to be the result of a carefully thought out and highly stylised shoot. You might ask why it matters. It's refreshingly charming, so what's the problem? The reason for my discomfort is that it's all a bit showbiz and buys into the damaging world of social media perfection. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to see pictures of the couple in a messy house surrounded by muddy dogs and sulky siblings arguing with one another, just something a little bit more honest. Professional portraits that look like professional portraits, fine. Professional portraits dressed up to look like relaxed, informal holiday snaps, no. A keen amateur photographer, Kate has previously taken many of the family portraits released to the media to mark family occasions. However, following the debacle of March 2024, when she had to admit to editing a Mother's Day picture taken by Prince William, I wonder if she's decided that it's safer to rely on the professionals. If so, it's a shame, because since then we've been treated to a glut of glamorous Hollywood-style photos and videos of Kate and her family, the videos often accompanied by some decidedly woo-woo voiceovers. My other issue with this type of picture and video is that it's all a little bit Meghan. It's the sort of thing we expect from a Californian former lifestyle blogger fond of using phrases about living authentically, speaking my truth, and thriving, not surviving. Harry and Meghan have a good 8 years of form when it comes to these types of barefoot on the beach, love heart drawn in the sand snaps, and oh, how we've mocked them for it too. It would be unfortunate if Kate and William continued down this path. At times, it's starting to feel like they're one small step away from writing inspirational quotes on bananas. Lady C, what did you think of that criticism?
Well, I have to say, I thought some of it had merit.
I thought you might. We're going to have a fight over this, but go on. I'll let you explain why first.
Oh, good, darling. I'd love a good fight with you. No, I thought, first of all, she misses one or two important points, which are that the royals have always used professional photographers. For instance, Cecil Beaton, Anthony Armstrong-Jones, to just mention two. All the Beaton photographs, for instance, of Queen Elizabeth, when the Queen Mother, when she was the Queen, and, King George VI said, oh, I want Elizabeth to be evocative of a Winterhalter portrait. So, and that set the style for Queen Elizabeth as Queen and then as Queen Mother. So that's all. There's always been the professional element. No, not the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. And that's always been a fact. So Catherine is the one who has been an amateur photographer, and I hope she continues to be an amateur photographer, because I actually agree to an extent that it was very nicely posed, and had it not been done by a professional, I think it would have had greater appeal. But because it was done by a professional and it was done very sort of roots down to earth, everybody's informal there, they've got hay behind their sort of thing. I think it is slightly evocative of Meghan and Harry. And I think, I'm not saying that there are not times when that's not appropriate, but I think it would have been better had it been done with Catherine setting up a camera and just doing it herself without the patina of professionalism. Or then, if it's going to be professional, it needs to have the patina of royalty. So, but I think you can't mix the two.
Okay, but Lady C, let me come in, because I'm just showing you some of these pictures, for example, over the years that the Queen Mother took with, with her daughters. And the thing is,
that was Snowden, by the way. That was Lord Snowden who took them.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, all of these, Lady C, are indicative of the time period in which they were taken. And the world has changed. We now live in a world of quite stylized Instagram photography. And this is part of Prince William and Catherine's small M modernization project. I also take issue with people saying that it's like Meghan, because look at what we've been speaking about. Meghan does weird shit. All of her pictures are weird. It's all about not showing the children and covering their faces or putting graphics over their faces. Like, actually, I think what Catherine's doing is a modern styling of what the Queen Mother used to do with her daughters, which were of the moment. I mean, this is weird. Do you know what I mean? This stuff is weird and creepy. And I don't think there's anything weird or creepy. The other thing I just want to say, can we just take a look at the portrait of William and Catherine and the children? Because the other thing I disagree with Claudia Connell about, Lady C, is that this wasn't a perfect picture. Okay, George is not looking at the camera. He actually looks a little bit uncomfortable. But they still included it because it was captured in a moment of time. In terms of using the technology too, like I would argue, Lady C, if drones had been around in, the 1930s, then the Queen Mother would have probably used drones. Did you know what I mean? It's like...
Absolutely. And I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of the photograph itself. I'm simply disagreeing with you in terms of the fact that I'd have liked Catherine to have taken that photograph and set it up, as opposed to having a professional photographer. I think, there are times when and look, there is Meghan showing her backside.
I mean, it's a sexual photo, actually, and it's creepy. Again, I use the word creepy again. She's purposefully used a see-through dress to invoke that famous picture of Diana taken by Arthur Edwards. But Lady C, that picture taken by Arthur Edwards wasn't issued by Diana. She was embarrassed about it.
Also, Diana never said that she was roasting chicken with Charles at the time of the proposal. So, and those of us who wish to look at the Urban Dictionary will understand the link between showing a backside via clothing and roasting chicken. Let's leave it at that.
Well, indeed. And actually, it's so interesting looking at that famous Arthur Edwards shot, Lady C. Actually, you only see Diana's legs, whereas Meghan purposefully was sort of trying to show her whole ass in the family picture, the shape of her butt. I mean, weird, totally weird. Well, look, I personally, Lady C, I just think when it comes to the Daily Mail, the other reason why I'm really critical of these articles is because it's like, it doesn't matter what Catherine and William do. They always now find a way to find fault. It doesn't matter. And I genuinely think this is something that's being driven by Tobin Andre and Buckingham Palace. But anyway, we've gone into that before, so we won't do it again now because I'm desperate to talk to you about the Diana bombshell recordings, Lady C, which have sparked a lot of controversy this week. And of course, you wrote the book on Diana before Andrew Morton did. But the difference is Andrew Morton was working with Diana, so does have these tapes. And a lot of people, Lady C, have said this week, well, haven't we heard all of these tapes before? But no, a lot of the audio recording has not been released before. So let me just take you through the story before I get your reaction to it. Audio recordings made by Princess Diana about the breakdown of her marriage are to be broadcast for the first time in a 3-part television series. Diana, The Unheard Truth, will be based on 5 hours of secret recordings taped in 1991, in which she shares her thoughts on her former husband, King Charles, Queen Camilla, her sons, Princes William and Harry, as well as Sarah Ferguson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The recordings were made by her friend, Dr. James Colthorse, smuggled out of Kensington Palace and delivered to Andrew Morton, the author who used them as the basis for his book, Diana, Her True Story. In the 3 decades since Diana's death, less than 1 hour of these tapes has been heard. The series has been produced by Love Money TV, which partnered with Morton and Colthurst to secure access to the tapes. It has promised that they will change the public perception of Diana by showing a resilient, perceptive, and relatable young woman finding herself in the brightest of global spotlights and navigating the challenges with grace, self-awareness, and determination. Viewers will also hear her infectious humour and twinkling laughter and discover how accurate she was in predicting the future. Most importantly, we hear her dreams for her future that could have been. A new chapter in which Charles goes off into the sunset with Camilla, leaving Diana free to carve her own path. Filming is underway. The planned release is, of course, August the 31st, 2027. I would say that is very crass because that is the exact day that marks the 30th anniversary of Diana's death, but they're looking for a big payday here. And the producers have released a statement, Lady C, saying, "In life, when Diana spoke, the world listened. These newly uncovered recordings offer a rare opportunity to hear Diana's perspective once more. It's time to recognize her legacy as one of agency, courage, and love. The raw words of Diana present a fuller portrait, a woman navigating pressure, redefining her role, and moving forward with conviction. It invites the public to encounter Diana not only through what happened to her, but through how she chose to respond." So, what do you think, Lady C, about these tapes being part of a new series?
I think it's very interesting that they're doing it. I think so much. I need to sort of be very concise. First of all, Diana made those tapes because she would not deal directly with Andrew Morton. So she did them through James Colthurst, whose family owned the Blarney Stone in Ireland, incidentally, for what that's worth. Because remember, Diana is part Irish, and they were good friends. And so the tape, but Diana also was very selective with her presentation of facts. And Andrew Morton wasn't the first person that Diana cooperated with to write a book. She never cooperated with him directly. She cooperated with me to write my book, and we fell out over the contents of my book. And also, she knew what the outline was going to be because she knew that I had submitted what was his name? He published the Morton book as well, Michael O'Mara. So they had the skeleton of my book as well. And in fact, they waited until my book was out to see exactly what I was finally going to say, because she knew that we had fallen out over her desire halfway through to change her story and to make herself into more of a victim than she was. And I think if one of the virtues of this, if these tapes emerge in their entirety, will be to show that Diana was actually very resourceful. She was very strong. She was strong-minded. She had tremendous weaknesses, but she also had great strength of character. She was no pushover, and indeed she was the more dominant partner in the marriage than Charles. And if some or all of this is shown, that will be to the good, because she has, as a result of the Morton book, she has been presented as the victim that she never was. Diana was never the victim that she presented herself as being. That was a totally opportunistic move, so that when she left, because she wanted to leave Charles, she wanted to leave the royal way of life, she wanted to remarry and have a daughter. Those were her ambitions. And she knew that she was expected to stay in the marriage for the rest of her life. And she was trying to use my book, then she used the Morton book as a way out of the marriage. And indeed, it worked. But if there will doubtless be things that she says that are extremely self-serving and have little or no relation to reality. But there will also be things that, if people are dispassionate, which I was, because I had nothing against Diana, I liked her at least up to a point. And I certainly wasn't either pro or anti her. I've always said if Charles had been the bastard that she tried to make him out to be, I'd have been the first one to plunge the knife into his gut on her behalf. But it just so happens he wasn't. And she embroidered things so that she would walk with her privileges, which indeed she did. Diana was a very, very tactical, manipulative person. And she had great charm. She could be very empathetic. She could be very sympathetic. She could be very affectionate. But for every virtue that Diana possessed, she possessed the corresponding failing in equal measure. That's very unusual in a personality. And she was also superb at masking aspects of her personality. And she presented herself as far sweeter and more vulnerable than she was, because she did have a sweet and vulnerable side to her personality. But she also had an extremely hard, tough, ruthless, manipulative, and devious side to her personality. And a lot of this had nothing to do with Charles or the royal family, but was as a result of her childhood experiences with her parents and their divorce. So I think it will be, I will be very interested to hear those tapes and see how they have been edited and how they have been cut. And hopefully they will show that Diana intended to flourish, and she intended to leave Charles. She intended to be her own woman. And also, very importantly, she had no problem with Charles ending up with Camilla. She simply wanted to end up with her version of the equivalent of Camilla. But she had nothing against Charles ending up with Camilla. This supposed great hatred of Camilla has been, and that she was a great victim of Camilla is an invention that even Diana at times used to admit was an invention. But it's clung to Charles and Camilla. And of course, Diana is no longer here to say, well, I was a little bit naughty. Oh, that was the American edition.
So that was, and was that your first, and then was this the second Lady C, the real Diana that followed?
No, yes, the first one that you showed, Diana in Private, was published in 1992, early 1992, and it predated the Morton book. They actually had to wait to see what I had written, so that they would know what to counter in Diana, her untrue story. And then after she died, I was commissioned to do a posthumous biography. And because Morton was doing one, and Morton was coming clean about the fact that Diana had helped him, my publisher at the time, Hope Dellon, with St. Martin's Press in the United States, who ironically enough ended up publishing Andrew Morton's books as well, because she ended up being his editor as well as mine. And I have nothing against Andrew, by the way. I like him, and I think he did an exemplary job. He was a great propagandist. It was propaganda. He made a lot of money out of it, and good for him. I'm not decrying anything.
And a career for life.
Him.
A career for life. A career for life. No. Okay, I knew you would be absolutely fascinating on that, Lady C. Goodness gracious me. Thank you so much.
This video is for news reporting, commentary, and educational purposes. The views expressed are based on publicly available information and personal analysis. We strive for accuracy but encourage viewers to verify information through official sources.